Hey everybody, it's Marshall Monkey here, and this is going to be my Captain Marvel movie review. I'm so excited to talk about this movie with you, but I have to say there's some good in this movie that I felt like was really good, and then there's the bad in this movie, which are minor, and I think they're really only correspondent to my feelings about the movie, and my personal opinions. But I'm sure that there's people out there that would agree with me in terms of certain things that I don't think this movie sticks the landing with. But we're going to talk about it. It's so exciting. And of course, with Captain Marvel being the first female-led film for the MCU, I'm sure there'll be more similar type films going forward with her. But also, I'm excited to see what they do with Black Widow, because I think that, again, what they do really well with this movie is really good. So I'm so excited. I feel like it's exciting. We'll talk about it. But anyway, before we get to that, you should follow my Twitter if you want updates about what's going on with videos. I do a lot of posts about certain things, certain celebrities, actors, movies, TV shows. It's exciting. So follow my Twitter if you want to see stuff like that. So let's talk about Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is an exciting addition to the MCU, although you don't really need to see this movie to feel that way. There's really nothing here setting up for Phase 4. There's like one end credit scene that'll set up for a different venture, a different, I guess, journey that we'll see later on, wink wink. But even then, it's like, meh, you don't really need to see it. Again, there's just nothing really, like, exciting here that points to the future of the MCU. I mean, the character, yes, of course, but really nothing that's, like, huge storylines. They actually kind of ruined a little bit of the MCU a little bit, and we'll talk about why. But before we get even further, I just want to say, again, there's no spoilers in this half of the video. We'll have spoilers later on in the second half, and I'll warn you when that comes up. There'll even be a visual cue that will tell you when spoilers are coming. But again, some of the things in this movie kind of ruin parts of the MCU to me instead of actually setting up for better things. But that doesn't mean that the movie isn't enjoyable. There's a lot of fun and quirky, exciting scenes in this movie. There's a lot of fun gags and jokes. I don't think that the MCU... You know, I think that there's a problem with the humor in the MCU because I don't think it's really truly sticking the landing as I would hope it would. It's kind of lost some of its humor for me, especially in Thor Ragnarok, and we'll talk about that movie in a minute. But one thing I love about this film is Brie frickin' Larson. I love her, and she's an Oscar-winning actress, so it's a very good get for the MCU, and she just exudes personality in this film. I mean, it's just, she's likable, she's funny, she's a role model, right? She just does so well as the character. The only thing I would do for Brie Larson is I think I'd rein her in a little bit when it comes to promoting the film. She has a huge, I think it was like a huge expo, I don't really know what it was that she was at, an event where she talks about male critics and male viewers of film, right? And she heavily criticizes them, and I would tell her not to, because for the opening, Deadline reports that for the opening of Captain Marvel, 61% of that audience was male. So I would rein it in a little bit, Brie Larson. I think that, you know, she made really great points at her expo, her speech, but, you know, you have to look at everything. You have to look at every standpoint, even casual moviegoers, right, who are male and female, right? You have to look at those statistics as well, especially for the movie universe that you're starring in. But other than that, Brie Larson is just fantastic. She's such a good actress, and I think that people are going to stick with her a lot. And I think that what's funny about this movie is that Captain Marvel is very detachable from the MCU. I didn't really feel like I was watching an MCU movie while watching this. I feel like it was its own thing, which is very interesting because, you know, with movies like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Thor Ragnarok, those are films I didn't love. I mean, they were okay. I didn't actually like Thor Ragnarok at all, to be quite honest with you, which I know is a very unpopular opinion. But the other two are really okay films, right? They're not really exciting. And I feel like Captain Marvel kind of fits in that category as well. But what really saves it from that category, from being, you know, exactly the same as those films, is that this movie is very detachable. It has a very 90s feel to it, which is good because it's set in the 90s. The cinematography is very different and nostalgic, and I feel like Brie Larson's performance also fits that as well. Especially with like the cues, like the gags that they use, like Blockbuster that's featured in the trailer. They kind of run with that a little bit in the movie, just to kind of save you from spoilers and stuff like that. So that's what helps this film a lot. Now, in terms of the feminism of this movie, there's been a lot of talk about that. We have to mention it. It's the elephant in the room because there's a lot of hate online with Captain Marvel. For those of you who don't know, Captain Marvel, the Rotten Tomatoes score was released, but the audience score was pulled because audiences were trolling Captain Marvel. Huge fiery hate for this movie right now. I feel like it's gotten better since Captain Marvel's release, but beforehand it was just huge hate. A lot of it, really. But let's talk about the feminism. So I actually love Lashana Lynch, who plays Rambeau in the movie, and I love her friendship and her relationship with Captain Marvel, with Carol in the film. It's very true to how women interact, in my opinion anyway. I know I'm not a woman, so I can't really speak on that, but I think it's very true. It's very genuine, and I feel like their friendship as a whole is very genuine. And I love, one thing I loved about the feminism is that it really does highlight, you know, back in the day that, you know, there weren't any combat pilots that were women. That's the feminism that I love about this movie. There are some things we'll talk about in the spoiler half when it comes to the feminism that I was like, you don't really need that. Some of it is unnecessary to be honest, and it's kind of unfortunate. But there are parts like that specific part of the Air Force that was highlighted so well in terms of feminism. Now, another thing that I did not like about this film, you know, even though I loved the nostalgic feel, the detachability, the character interactions, the genuinism, one thing that I did not like is Captain Marvel is too freaking OP in this film. She is too OP, and that leads to a spoiler that we'll talk about later on in the spoiler half that I was just kind of like, you're really hurting yourself with this one, Marvel. I mean, it's just too much. I don't get how she's gonna really fit in Endgame with everybody else, because she's so powerful that it feels like she could totally pull a Henry Cavill Superman and take out Thanos by herself. Possibly. I mean, Thanos is pretty powerful too, so we'll see how that whole thing balances out with the other characters. But she is just way too OP here. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, it's that crazy. And a lot of people judged Henry Cavill Superman for that too, so I'm wondering how many people are going to feel the same way, because I definitely do. I mean, I feel like Superman was kind of justified in Man of Steel because everybody else was like the same power level, but she was just like way too powerful for her enemies. It was crazy. So to talk about Captain Marvel as a whole for the MCU, again, to me, it fits on par with the excitement levels for Thor Ragnarok and Ant-Man and the Wasp and Guardians 2. I didn't like Thor Ragnarok at all, really, to be honest with you. I did like some parts, but not a lot of it. And I do like Captain Marvel. So again, just the excitement level overall is what matches between movies like that and Captain Marvel as a movie. That's really what captures there for me. So now we're getting into spoiler territory, so click off this video if you have not seen Captain Marvel. Alright, ready? Still here? Okay, let's talk about the Skrulls. I wanted to keep them in the spoiler half because we just have to talk about their huge twist. So the twist was that the Skrulls were actually the good guys in the film all along and are fighting with the Kree. Now, to me, I kind of actually saw this coming because the Kree are like freaking awful, right? I mean, one of the characters, I can't remember his name, the actor in real life, but he also plays the Wizard in Shazam. He's jumping from every comic book universe. But anyway, he is in Guardians 1, right, as one of the villains, right, in the opening with Peter Quill, right? And then also you see Ronan, who works with the Kree, right? So, I mean, you know, you kind of already have those little sprinkles and hints in there as to point you into the right direction. That the Kree are not necessarily good people. And I was just kind of like, something's fishy about this. Also, the whole thing with like putting power dampener on Carol, right, like on Captain Marvel, but it was just all like not really, it didn't add up to me, right? And that's kind of how I got that twist, but I was still shocked by it. I really truly was, because, you know, the Skrulls are very well made out to be villains in this film, very much so, and I think that's, you know, a good thing, because you want people to get thrown off by that twist, and I definitely think people will be, you know, the casual moviegoer, so that's pretty cool that that's happening. Now, about the Kree, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling the Kree in this movie. I really wasn't. There really wasn't too much with them, you know, involved. I did like, you know, the detachability of the film. Like I was saying, it felt very different from an MCU movie. But the unfortunate factor is that the Kree, the space settings, everything like that, it was just, that was the part that really drew back for me. That was probably why I didn't like it as much as I would have if that part wasn't in there, which is kind of unfortunate. And a lot of the scenes with the Kree, especially, you know, towards the third act, and even in the beginning as well, made the movie feel smaller to me, if that makes sense. Like, it kind of, again, the whole Kree scenes just kind of drew me back a little. I liked the movie more when it was Carol and Nick Fury and really her story rather than seeing the Kree. I mean, I know the Kree are helping her set up that story, but I don't know, something about them just seemed off to me, and it didn't really make sense of why they were there until the third act when they were kind of helping, trying to take down Carol with Jude Law, right? That was when I felt that. Now, as for the feminism, said there was unnecessary parts of that. Again, love the Air Force stuff, but I didn't love the fact that every bully that Carol had growing up was a male. You know, I think that was a little off to me. I mean, what about, you know, girls who might be like, again, opposed to her? You know, back in the day, that was kind of how it worked, with girls being opposed to her being a tomboy, or, you know, and kind of wanting to do what the guys do. Well, what about that? We didn't see any of that, right? You know, we only saw men being mean to her. And also, the joke about the cockpits, right? I was like, I don't know about that one. I mean, I guess that makes sense, because, again, back in the Air Force, women weren't allowed to be combat pilots. But I felt like it was too many men, right, who were bullying her, and, you know, you don't necessarily see that all the time. You know, it was like kind of off to me. But again, I know some people like that stuff, but I really felt like the great feminism stuff was with the Air Force, and I think they should have focused more on that, because that was great. Now, as for Captain Marvel's OP-ness, the twist that I was talking about is that the Tesseract is what helped gave her her powers, right? And that was what the goal was to protect the Tesseract by the third act. So with Nick Fury knowing the Tesseract was a huge end goal in the first Avengers movie, and that's what kind of brought him and Captain Marvel together, why didn't he call her then, right? Was that not an emergency, right? Same thing with Ultron, right? And, you know, I don't know, I just kind of felt like that kind of hurts the movie a little bit, because that's, to me, a plot hole. I guess they might have explained that further on, but maybe I just didn't get that. But that was one of the twists that I didn't like so much in the movie that brought it down. Overall, I liked Captain Marvel. I thought it was a really enjoyable film, but I just don't feel like it's on the level that it needed to be. I felt like it was a bit smaller, which is why, to me, it fits in those other categories of Marvel films as of recent. But what did you guys think of Captain Marvel? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Comment down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts about the movie. And don't forget to like and favorite this video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later for some more videos. Bye-bye.